Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we will continue talking about analyzing data with pivot tables inside of Excel. And so far we've covered a lot already. We've talked about creating a pivot table. So this we've done. We've created the pivot table. We've learned how to navigate through the pivot table. We've talked about the sorting options. We've learned about how to sort data with pivot table. Today we'll look at the refresh and update with pivot table. So that's the part we are focusing on. Refreshing and updating our pivot table. Now the concept of refreshing and updating, what does it even mean? So say you're working on a project and you've created your pivot table already from the raw data provided. Then someone walks in and says, hey, excuse me, we have new data and we would like you to add the new data to the already existing project, right? And the pivot table has been created. Now, we created the pivot table in part 1 from a range. So I told you there are two ways we can create pivot tables. One is from the range and two is from a table, right? A table. And I assured you that in the future tutorial, I will show you the difference between creating a data from a range and from a table. Now, this is where it comes into play. What happens when you're updating your pivot table? One, there are two ways you can update the pivot table. There are two situations. So one, change of data. And two, adding new data. So these two ways, one, you're changing a already existing data, and two, you're adding brand new data. And I'm going to show you just now how it works. So first thing first, look at our chart. So go back to Excel. Not sure what's going on. Alright. So we're back in Excel. And let's pay attention to something. So I'm going to go back to Excel. Go back to the raw data in Excel. Go back to my raw data. And let's see the very first movie. Let's see the very first movie. So that the movie title is May. I want something very easy to spot. So let's see, the first movie on our raw data is Over the Hill to the Poorhouse. Alright, let's sort that particular movie out in the pivot table. So I'm going to sort, and I don't want to select all, so I'm going to uncheck that. I don't want to select all. I'm going to search for the movie title. So over. So this is just the movie I want. I don't select all my results, and I just want this particular title. Say okay. Let it update. Alright. Now it's updated. In my raw data, I'm going to change something about that particular title. So the budget, I will change to 0. So it's going to be a very obvious number. I'm changing the budget to 0. Now, I've changed that budget to 0, but in my raw data, the budget has not changed. You can see it's still 10,000. It's still at 10,000. So I'm going to change. After changing the budget to 0, it's still at 10,000. So for that to update in the pivot table, we would have to refresh. So to do that, we come to Analyze. So right now we are here, Home. So there is Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data. Come to Analyze. And on the Analyze, we have the option to refresh. So you click on the refresh and refresh all. Once we do that, dynamically, that value has been updated to 0. Now, if we go back to the raw data and make this 10,000 once again, alright, 10,000, go back. So now it's still 0. It's still 0. So once we do the refresh and refresh, now it's updated again back to 10,000. So this is where the refresh tool is really helpful, because like I said, once you have the you are refreshing based on two conditions. Like there are two reasons why we are refreshing. One, there is a change in the data, which is just what we are looking at now, that there was some change in the data that we had to refresh the pivot table, so that change in the pivot table. So from our raw data, there was a change. Now, how about when we add data? What happens when we add new to the pivot table? How does that help us in updating the pivot table values? So in the next tutorial, we'll look at adding new data and how to properly add new data and update that new data in the pivot table. So I'll see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe to the channel and like the videos. Thank you.